All right. Welcome, everyone. Let's just get started, and whoever walks in, walks in. So we're all here today for our sustainability workshop. Yes? Not just having lunch? Okay. So this is afternoon time. I know we're all tired. We just ate. This is siesta at the end of the workshop. So we're just going to take it a little bit chilled. I'm from St. Lucia, and we are very chilled people. Yeah, so let's make this a very informal session. Hopefully you'll ask lots of questions. I really encourage you to disrupt me and interrupt me while I speak, to give feedback, to ask questions, to comment whatsoever, so we can have this be more of a lively discussion rather than a lecture. Right, so let me start by letting you know what we will go through today. So our outline, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm hoping that we can introduce ourselves in the room. I'd really like to know who's in here. We'll talk a bit about why this topic is important. Right, the why is very important before we start getting into the how. So what exactly is a sustainable enterprise? How we can actually integrate sustainability into businesses. We'll have some table activities and a report out and discussion and close. So very short, sweet, and hopefully interactive session. So introduction, I'm Shirley Ann Baravesh. I'm from the tiny island of St. Lucia, 180,000 people. Really, really small. I grew up there. My entire family is there. I went to school, undergrad at UETT, so University of the West Indies in Trinidad, where I studied finance and management, and then went to the UK for my master's degree, studied at the University of Cambridge, manufacturing engineering, very strange jump, but there's a story in there. And then eventually moved to the US, where I studied sustainability at a PhD level at Arizona State University, which at the time was the only university that had a school for sustainability. So I now teach, I'm a professor at ASU, Arizona State, at the business school, where I lead work in corporate sustainability strategy and also entrepreneurship. So a lot of my work tends towards developing countries, smaller island states, and areas like Latin America and the Caribbean. So I'm very happy to be here. This is my first time at this conference, and this is great, feeling part of a community. So I'm grateful to be here. And I'd love to hear just a little bit, very quick, your name, sort of where you're from, your business, and what interests you in sustainability. Right, so we have a decent number, so it shouldn't take that long. So if you just want to spend less than 45 seconds to 1 minute, yeah, can we do that? And we just introduce ourselves, that would be great. Thank you. I think we have a microphone? Yeah. Yep, perfect. Yes, we shall start right here.
Well, my name is Enrique. I am originally from the Dominican Republic, but I live here in Puerto Rico. I am the Dean of the School of Business Administration at the Polytechnic University of Puerto Rico. And for me, it's very interesting topic. That's why I'm to learn about how to integrate this concept into the business models.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nuravni Salons. I'm from Suriname. And I have a background in environmental science and currently doing my master in business administration. So the reason why I'm here is because I have a couple of organizations that are based on the sustainability, and yeah, that's why. Thank you.
Nice to have you.
Hi, I am Dr. Moises Laguna Nieves. I am from Puerto Rico. I work as a professor in Universidad Ana Geméndez, Recinto de Copey. I teach some classes about this subject, and I am very interested to learn new things about it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Marilyn Rivera. I'm a professor at Universidad Ana Jiménez, Coupé campus. What else? Why? Sustainability, right? I always like to keep updated in certain topics, and this is one of them. So, hoping to learn new things.
Okay. Hi, nice meeting you all. My name is Alba Bruguera Fabre. I work at the Universidad de Sagrado Corazón in San Juan. And I also teach in sustainability. We have a BA program in business school at the Universidad de Sagrado Corazón of sustainable development. This is the first bachelor's degree in sustainable development in Puerto Rico that we know of. And so that's why I'm here.
Hello, I'm Professor Reina De Luca, also from the University of Sacred Heart in Santurce, and I teach marketing. I'm a full professor at the university, and I also work with the sustainability theme in my courses, and we are all working in the area of sustainability in our university. So.
Hi, I am Moraima de Hoyo from the University of Puerto Rico, Mayagüez campus. And also I am a professor in entrepreneurship and director of the Business and Economic Development Center, which is a university center of EDA. So the subject, the themes of sustainability is something very important for us.
Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome. I am Gloria Vizcasillas from the Echar Pa'lante Multisector Alliance, and we have been helping to integrate the local ecosystem and to develop the plans to strengthen the ecosystem and stimulate entrepreneurship as a lever for economic development for the past 12 years. And we have been looking at where entrepreneurship is going around the world and trying to bring world experts like Shirley Ann to Puerto Rico so that we learn firsthand about all these different concepts that we need to introduce to our work, and are very pleased that Shirley Ann was able to join us this time, because this is a topic that is relatively new. We started and you helped us after the hurricanes to study sustainability in entrepreneurship, and we believe that we need to do much more. So thank you for being here and helping us with that particular mission. Thank you.
And thanks to Gloria for having me here. She's the reason why I'm here. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Frances Santiago. I'm a tourism professor at the Pontificia Universidad Católica in Campus Ponce. And as many tourism, to be a good industry for the economy has to be sustainable. So this is why I'm here.
Like the case we have today.
Good evening to everyone. My name is David Sayas. I'm professor and dean of the Business College at the Pontifical Catholic University of Puerto Rico, Ponce campus. And I'm here to learn more about the theme, to use the information in my classes and help our students to develop the knowledge to improve our ecosystem.
Hi everyone, my name is Cecilia Rivera and I'm a social impact and sustainability communications consultant. So I've just always found the subject fascinating, and I think everything always turns around sustainability, the sustainability of our people, our planet, and our economies.
Hi everyone, I am Monica Novoa. I am a doctorate candidate at the Georgia Institute of Technology in the School of Public Policy. I have been in academia for the last 15 years or so, and the reason I am here is because sustainability is a concept that has different applications depending on the context, and to me it's very interesting to learn more about it and to learn how to integrate it to business models in this case, and I'm really looking forward to the session.
Hello everyone, my name is Joana Salgado. I'm the director to the Women in Business and the Women Economic Forum. I'm interested to connect with the sustainability because for the future is business, sustainability, and women.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Herrera, and I'm here because I'm also interested in learning more about sustainability here in Puerto Rico. I'm a local business owner, and I'm looking to see what's the possibility of connecting sustainability in different sectors to transform my business more as a social impact or a social entrepreneurship. Gracias. ¿Y tú? Arturito. ¿Alguien más? Somebody else? Yeah.
Good afternoon. I am Karen Sue. I'm from Barbados. I work at a company called Fund Access. We lend money to start or expand small businesses. My role is business development, where I go into the field and work with clients to make sure that the businesses are functioning properly. So I want to learn from you how I can transform our clients through sustainability.
Hola, I am Lidia Rosalí. I am the business development strategist for a program called Nuestro Barrio from the Universidad de Sagrado Corazón. We work with incubators and accelerators, but specifically for the communities around the campus, the university campus in Santurce. I also teach marketing in Sagrado, and we're very interested in Nuestro Barrio to integrate everything that has to do with sustainability. So looking forward to learn.
She says she doesn't want to introduce herself. Hi, my name is Carmen Laura Bonilla. I am starting to mentor entrepreneurs going through the accelerator at UPR Mayagüez. So I'm very much looking forward to planting some seeds and encouraging entrepreneurs on considering sustainability as part of business strategy. As a business professional myself, I am curious about how we can do more and stop our greenwashing. And in the past, I have also done a bit of activism in work related to the planet.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I am Professor Vivian Feliberti from various universities, including Sagrado Corazón, where I teach in entrepreneurship. And at this moment, I'm also a business consultant in the restaurant industry. And this moment, I'm developing with colleagues an application for the restaurants that include the circular economy, sustainability, food waste, and all the stuff, and that's why I'm here.
Hello, I'm Dr. Lori Piper with the Kansas Department of Commerce. I'm here because sustainable businesses and sustainable supply chains are important to our economy.
Did we miss anyone? We have Sanketa here, and then we'll go back to
okay. Thank you. Afternoon, everyone. I'm Tankita Chance Wilson. I am the executive director for Barita Foundation, a corporate foundation in Jamaica. I'm interested to learn more about sustainability as we look to include ESG as one of our non-financial measures and to incorporate more sustainability into the work that we do with our entrepreneurs.
And we have here two more. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ileana Ballester Panelli. I'm a professor in Sagrado Corazón in the School of Communication. I teach advertising and marketing. And also I teach in the sustainability program. That's why I'm here. And I also have given conferences about the role of advertising in sustainability.
All right. We have everyone? Perfect. So it looks like the academics are, they're in the room. All right, this is great. Well, I'm speaking to people who I understand. When we have another group in the room, which seem to be the ecosystem builders as well, right? Those who actually work with entrepreneurs, and we have some entrepreneurs as well. So we have everyone in the room, even though the academics seem to be taking over everything. All right, so let's get started with a little bit of the question of why, right? It's always important, and the marketing people will know this. We always start with the why. This is where the values come from, and this is where we understand why it's important to solve the problem. So I'm going to start first by talking about the impact of sustainability on businesses, on enterprise. We are in an unprecedented time. We all know this. We're in here. We know that climate change is one of the biggest problems that we've ever had to deal with on a global scale. And for this region in particular, it's immense, right? We expect some really, really huge changes. We've already started to see a lot of those changes. Just this year, what was it, 2 weeks ago, we had one of our first Category 5 hurricanes already, very early in the season. We continue to see this season become even longer. We see devastating droughts, particularly in South America, around the Amazon. So 2023 was the worst drought on history in the Amazon for the last half a century. And 2024 has already proved to be on the right start to top in that record, right? What this means for South America is water security, food security, and countless other issues, but it's not just for South America, it's for the entire world. If you've not heard of the Amazon being referred to as the lungs of the planet, it's because a lot of the global emissions are actually, the trees of the Amazon take in that CO2, and the more and more we see those trees go away, the less and less we have that capacity to take in that GHG. We also expect the land values to decrease over time. So here we have, if you look at the redder colors, so red to yellow here means this is all negative. So the land values over time are expected to decrease because of these exacerbating issues of climate change. So what this means for the economy is huge, right? We also, just right here, just a few years ago, 2017, had one of our biggest hurricanes on record in Puerto Rico. This is San Juan. So not too long ago, we had this major hurricane that devastated not just Puerto Rico, but other Caribbean islands as well. Still suffering, absolutely, of close to $100 billion US. A devastating hit to the economy. We also had something like 3,000 lives lost in that hurricane alone. And that was just one hurricane, one Category 5 hurricane, and we expect more and more of them to show up as we continue. On a worldwide survey, it was found that most of the countries the countries that are most concerned about climate change are in Latin America. So these are top concerned countries. Colombia, Chile, Mexico, all of these countries are the ones that are really, really concerned because they're seeing the issues, and these are vulnerable economies. So they are feeling the hit pretty quickly. And the unfortunate thing is these countries together make up maybe about 8% of the GHG emissions, the greenhouse gas emissions worldwide. So they're a really small part of the problem, but a huge part of the ones who actually get impacted by climate change. And climate-related events in Latin America and the Caribbean over the last decade or so has left about 300,000 people dead, more than 277 million people affected over time. And of course, we expect this to continue. GDP losses, this is where it really hits the economy. This is a projection, this is a projection for the year 2100. And this is the expected loss here for these countries when we think about GDP. So our economies are meant to grow, but climate change seems to be pushing things the other way. So as a business person, as an entrepreneur, this is really important. Sorry.
So I'm from Colombia. Also, I see Venezuela, Colombia, and Brazil. Why do you see in why Venezuela, Colombia, and Brazil have the most problem in that place?
Yep. So, in terms of policy, sorry? Yeah, so this here is, so this is projection. So this is a projection, right? An estimate into the future. This is not what is current. And it's saying that if we implement a policy early, so the purple, this will be the loss, right? If we have a late policy, this will be the loss. If we continue as we are today, then this is the loss we expect. Yeah? So it's merely saying that we need to do stuff now. We need to change our policy right now to be able to mitigate those losses. And all of these seem to be sort of environmental impacts, societal impacts. Of course, there's some economic impacts, but a lot of the impacts to businesses are indirect. So these are the impacts down here. So these cascading effects. So we have the direct impacts of destruction of natural capital, crop failure, water shortages, but these go on to lead to more and more issues that affect the economy larger, affect things like credit risk, energy prices, availabilities of supplies and supply chain issues, and all of these exacerbated and cascading impacts affect businesses at the end of the day. So this is a problem that we obviously need to be thinking about, and we all know that because we're in the room. So I want to flip this and think about the impacts of entrepreneurship on sustainability. Now in sustainability, we have three spheres. We want to think about them as the environment, the economy, and society. So we all know this part. Entrepreneurship is great for the economy. It builds jobs. It builds jobs. It expands markets. There's growth. There's development. All of that great stuff. We all know this. Entrepreneurship also affects society. And it's not just about building jobs. It's a bit more than that. In fact, it can do really wondrous things like change the way in which we perceive certain groups in society, like women, like marginalized groups, like people who don't typically have voices or say in particular societies, and can build community pride. I have a really cool video I want to show. It's just up till 3:10. Por favor, yeah. And this is just a short video.
Somos una comunidad productora de chile serrano. Somos una comunidad productora de chile serrano. Mujeres. Somos una empresa de indígenas.
A short video about a social enterprise in Mexico, a very small community of a really poor community who sought their way out and developed economically and societally and changed a lot in that area because of this enterprise. If we can show it. If we can't, it's not a problem. I can send it to everyone later. Okay.
De chile serrano.
Ahorita somos
una empresa de mujeres
que estén rojos para hacer las
somos
salsas.
Indígenas, nos da como identidad a nosotras, porque somos esa salsa para nosotras es una salsa ancestral, nuestras abuelas, tatarabuelas, es un sabor como muy especial y a nosotros eso nos da como mucha emoción porque los alimentos también forman parte como de nuestra historia y hay muchos alimentos tradicionales que se están perdiendo.
Esta salsa la comemos desde hace muchos tiempos cuando nos enseñaron nuestros abuelitos.
Y mi abuelita me enseñó a cultivarlo, me enseñó a prepararlo seco y a mí eso es lo que me recuerda.
¿La hizo con amor?
Claro que sí, con amor, porque pues ese amor, ese entusiasmo de que está uno sabiendo en la mente que es bien sabroso. Oye, está uno tostándolo, ya se está uno maquinándose que cómo está de rico. Son riquísimas, son las más ricas de toda la República. Organizarnos primero para conseguir crédito para cultivar chile. Nos dimos cuenta que el chile, cuando ya está rojo, nadie lo compra y un cultivo de chile pues le lleva mucho trabajo. Entonces nosotras, las mujeres, compramos el chile rojo y también el de nosotros, el que sembramos, y transformamos el chile en salsas secas.
Culturalmente nosotras nos estamos atreviendo a hacer algo diferente, o sea, algo que a las mujeres está prohibido hacer, ¿no? Porque culturalmente siempre son como los hombres los que se atreven a iniciar nuevos negocios y cuando es una empresa de mujeres y quienes están liderando y tomando sus propias decisiones.
Okay, it's when I played this video on my computer, the subtitles were in English. So I apologize for the English speakers in here. So for the English speakers, the video, so this is, he's explaining, he's interpreting to her. So this small company, they were trying to alleviate waste. So they're a group of farmers who grew chilies. Now, once the chili got ripe, they weren't able to sell them anymore because the shelf life is really, really short. So they found a way to utilize those chilies to create a salsa using the old historical, cultural way of creating the salsa. And it was part of the slow food movement. And they now have these salsas all over the US. This small community, very poor community, and we missed some of the intro there, but a lot of the issues around women in entrepreneurship, I'm sure we are all aware, was that in that community, women were not expected or allowed to have these kinds of jobs, in particular having their own business. And so it was a struggle for that group, but they pushed through and persisted and created this enterprise. So the power of entrepreneurship on a societal scale is even deeper than just the economic opportunities. It's about reviving culture. Right? It's about engaging with the community culturally and bringing people together from different walks of life. On a global scale, and I'm hoping we've all seen this before. We have a lot of academics in the room, so obviously we've seen this. So our Sustainable Development Goals, these are our global goals as a planet we hope to achieve to mitigate the sustainability issues that we have, in particular climate change. Now we have 17 of these goals, and they're pretty broad, but entrepreneurship tends to target these here. I would say it probably targets all if you think about the indirect impacts, but these are some of the more direct ways in which entrepreneurship affects global sustainability goals. So huge positive impacts from entrepreneurship to the field of sustainability. And of course, there are benefits to entrepreneurs, to businesses of adopting sustainability practices. And some are easy to recognize. I'm not figuring this remote out yet. The cost reduction. If we are talking about saving resources at the end of the day we're referring to natural resources like water, like energy, like those materials that are used that are derived from nature. These natural resources, the more we can reduce them, the better it is for the planet. But at the same time, the more we can reduce them, the better it is for our bottom line, right? We're saving money at the end of the day. So this just makes business sense. This is the most obvious selling point for those in marketing for sustainability. Cost reduction, efficiencies, saving resources. We also have risk reduction. And this is one that a lot of larger organizations tend to think about. If you recall, just a few years ago with the COVID-19 pandemic, supply chain issues were massive. In the United States, and we had a lot of supply chain shortages with car chips, with lots of technology, with toilet paper. Did you guys have toilet paper issues in different? we had a lot of supply chain issues, and it really brought home the point that we have a lot of risk and vulnerability in our supply chains. So a lot of organizations are now scrambling to figure out how can we mitigate that risk and reduce that risk. So in the future, if we do have another pandemic, hopefully not, or we have some other disaster, that we are able to ensure that we have a sustainable supply of materials. So huge part of sustainability benefits, sales and profit margin. Of course, if we're reducing risk, we're reducing costs, we're increasing this. Reputation, brand value. So again, for those marketing in the room, if we are doing something good for the planet, if we're doing something good for the society, there's a lot of brand value in that. And this is where the greenwashing comes in. So if you haven't heard the term greenwashing, this is where organizations basically claim to do more than they are, right? So, yeah, greenwashing. Greenwashing. So have you ever picked up a product and it has a green leaf on it, or it has this cardboardy feel, and it looks like, oh, this product must be sustainable, right? Or it says natural. There's a lot of that going around. If you were to read further and further into that product, you'll realize it has nothing to do with sustainability. It's just a marketing gimmick to make us think, because, you know, consumers, we pick things based on what we see and what we like. So that first impression gives that impulse. So there's a huge reputational brand value at stake here. Oh, Dios mío. And attractiveness as an employer is also a big one. The millennial generation and the newer generation, I don't even know what they're called, the Zenials, they're all, and then the ones after my generation. The one at the back there, they care about society and the environment. In fact, a lot of the age, I think it's around 35 and below, want to work for companies that do something good for society. So it's not just about being paid the best, it's about doing something of value. So people, the new generation wants to work for a good company, a company that does something good. And so if you have this embedded within your operations, you will be attracting the best talent. So that is one of the selling points of sustainability as well. And of course, innovative capabilities. So when we think about sustainability and the embedding of sustainability and adoption of practices, we're thinking about different ways to solve problems. We're thinking of new ways, novel ways to do better. And inherently, we have this innovative mindset within the organization as well. All right, so the what. Any questions on the why or comments? Please feel free to comment, ask questions, give feedback as I go along. So what exactly is a sustainable enterprise? Anyone dare to give what is a sustainable enterprise? What does that look like? If you think about a sustainable company, who do you think of?
Maybe thinking about the community, what can I give back to the community with my enterprise?
Okay, so a company that gives back to the community. Any other thoughts on a sustainable enterprise?
The company that impacts economic, social, and
Environmental.
environment. No?
Yeah, so a company that incorporates both the economic, environmental, and societal elements. Stewardship of resources, so thinking about being careful and taking care and preserving those resources.
One that's operating profitably now with the future in mind.
Okay, so a profitable company today, but also thinking about the future. Yeah. Any other thoughts?
Maybe people, profit, planet.
People, profit, planet. You guys are throwing out frameworks. This is good. No, this is good. But if you were to think of a company, do you know any sustainable companies out there? They're working. It depends, yeah, for sure. But what company can you think of and why? Why would you consider them to be sustainable?
Maybe Apple.
Right? Apple, why?
They create jobs.
Okay.
In design, manufacturing, their community. They invest in different social and community-oriented projects, and also are responsible with paying fair share to the staff.
Okay. All right, so a lot of stakeholders. So he's mentioned Apple, and he said that the reason is because, one, they take care of their employees. They also give back to the community. They think about the design of their products and how it impacts the environment. Anyone care to disagree? Why is Apple not a sustainable company? Oh, sorry, yes.
Yeah, I would say to get a device, you need metals, and to make the device, you need the metals, and those require mining. But also for the batteries with cobalt, you need mining, and that's not sustainable.
So the product itself, we're saying that the product itself is unsustainable because it uses a lot of natural resources that are non-renewable, right? So a lot of those metals are non-renewable, but also they have a lot of societal impacts. So if you haven't heard, when we take metals out of our planet and minerals, we tend to impact the communities around us as well and the environment. Negatively, yes. Good point. As the same with oil and gas. All right. Any other thoughts on this?
I have one example here.
Yeah.
It could be a sustainable restaurant. It's a perfect example for me because it's my industry, and it shows us a farm-to-table model that they grow their own stuff to eat and all the resources that they have, including the electricity or the water. It made the business sustainable because it not depends on the external resources, and all keep going and allows the business to keep running and growing economic way.
Okay. So almost a business that mitigates a lot of those supply chain risks, right? If we have our local supply in our control almost, then we can keep that sustainability going through. So absolutely, great example. But this is a small company, right? So we're talking about Apple, a global giant. Sorry? Nike, the shoes, yeah. So are you saying they are sustainable or they're not?
No, I have the transition to make it more sustainability for the product.
Okay.
Because in some products use the plastic for the
Yep. Yeah, so Nike has had a long transition. So I don't know if you recall, some 15 years ago, Nike was under fire for child labor. And that was, and the truth is a lot of apparel companies did that back then, but they were just the ones who they made they used them as the example. But since then, apparel companies have been very, very careful about, sort of their supply chain and who they employ. And then, yes, recently they've all started to think about the products that they use, the materials that they use.
Wastewater management and the way they kind of handle resources, and they're Colombia-based, which was on your table. Yep. And then from Unilever, I think Paul Pullman started this whole ESG transition from, this is me nerding out, I'm sorry, from shareholders and stakeholders, and then how we can integrate that and then adapt that to all the companies that are under their umbrella. Yep. And then how you also give agency to different companies. So for example, Ben & Jerry's still retains their own board, right? So then you're kind of giving, I don't know if all the companies under them do the same thing, but you're kind of giving ownership to the social justice and sustainability causes of the organizations, yep. Or at least their brands.
Yep. So some great examples of large organizations, right? Because when we're small, you can control a lot, which is really great. When you're large and you're thinking about global supply chains and employees and different stakeholders, then it becomes a little more complicated. But three great examples there. So Unilever is one of the examples that we cite a lot when we think about companies that have undergone that change. So Paul Pullman was the CEO some years ago, and decided against a lot of stakeholders' advice to push forward this large sustainability agenda. So he created the Sustainable Living Plan, I believe it is called, where he created this whole host of initiatives, empowered employees. So this is where, again, you're starting to see about the mindset of sustainability within an organization. It's bringing people together, empowering them, giving them the agency to make decisions. So even though you're a large company, you're given that agility, right? You're creating that flexibility within the organization by giving the agency to various stakeholders, various employees. And we have another great example, Ben & Jerry's, which is actually what we call a B Corp or Benefit Corp. And these are special designations for organizations, businesses, so you can register your business as a B Corp, a Benefit Corp, sorry, they're kind of different. And what that means is rather than just have the responsibility of profit maximization to your shareholders, you also have the responsibility of some environmental or societal issues. So your shareholders actually expect you to deliver on all three, not just the one, which is where it really changes things. So Ben & Jerry's, Patagonia, Unilever, a lot of these companies have that model. So we've started to see a lot of these change over time. So great examples there. I have some points in terms of what a sustainable business might look like. So cultivating business through sustainable practices. So I'm thinking of this more at an entrepreneurial level, by the way. Combining entrepreneurial ideas with sustainability concepts to address problems. It meets customer needs. To reimagine existing technology, community-driven initiatives, so we mentioned that, connected business models to cultures, innovative solutions, and essentially, we're talking about a company, an organization that can solve societal and environmental problems through a successful business model. So sustainability doesn't mean that we're sacrificing profit. It means that you are actually solving problems at the same time as making a living or a profit. Okay, but this depends. Context is everything. And what will work in Silicon Valley what will work in Asia, what will work in Japan, won't necessarily work here in Latin America or the Caribbean. And so we do have to think about that context. We have to think about what are unique ways that we can leverage the strengths that we have. And some of my colleagues from the US in some different colleges across the US, we've been thinking about this from the context of entrepreneurship. So everyone has heard of the Silicon Valley model of entrepreneurship. You know, if you think about Silicon Valley, everyone knows Silicon Valley. So it's in California, around the San Francisco area. We have this area of all the tech giants, Apple, Google, Facebook, all the new tech companies are in this space. And Silicon Valley was not always Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley had a confluence of events, people who were in this area, investors who were in this area, and a particular geography as well that lent itself to creating what it is today. A lot of people around the world think, well, we should be the next Silicon Valley. So a lot of countries, including my own in St. Lucia, think we should adopt the Silicon Valley model. But the Silicon Valley model is not a model that will work for everyone. So we really need to think about what does the context lend to the model that we need? How can we create a better model for the space that we're in? And so some of the local or cultural differences that we see that are very important is the connections. We have, in the Caribbean and Latin America, we had a session on this yesterday as well, we are community driven. In mainland US, if you want to call it that, there's a lot of individualism. In countries of Latin America and the Caribbean, you have a lot of collectivism. People think about the communities. Everyone works together. Everyone knows each other. There's a lot of being together and enjoying company and families and food and all of those things. And we are just culturally closer connected to communities. So this is a huge strength that we think could be leveraged when we think about entrepreneurship. So how can we use that strength of connection to build better businesses or to build more businesses? Well, one of the first things is we need to learn more from the communities that we're part of or the communities we're not part of. Communities tend to know more about the problems they experience rather than those who walk in from outside. I have seen countless examples of people walking from outside and say, I know your problem, I have a solution. There was a project, for example, in, I think it was Ghana, where there's a certain rural community and they used a lot of charcoal to cook in their houses. And there was a problem of the smoke, basically. So smoke inhalation, this is within their household. There's a lot of eye issues, lung issues because they're breathing in smoke. And so we had these projects across the US, and this one group went in and said, we've created this new cook stove, and it's clean. You're going to put it into your house. It's small, it's compact, it uses gas. Yes, it uses gas. So they go in with this cook stove, which has been designed to fit into these houses, and then realize, wait, how do we connect this to gas? And wait, this is a poor community. They can't afford to go buy fuel and gas for this cook stove, right? So you have these solutions that aren't necessarily thinking about those who experience the problems and how they interact with those problems. So we really need to think about how can we build our solutions with the insights from the community. How can we really understand the problems that are being experienced so that we can solve them? right? So working with those local communities, getting the insights into those problems. We also want to think about collaborations. So I said that we want to leverage our connections. Collaborations are key here. In fact, a new model that we've seen that has been successful in this kind of collective society is collective or community organizations, where it's not just one person, but it's a group of people. So that example that I played earlier from Mexico, a group of people who pooled their resources, came together and started a business. So how can we create organizations or entities or enterprises that co-produce goods and services? These two, the experimentation with local partnerships, one of the things that I think we fail at, so I mentioned what we're good at, we're very community oriented. One of the things I think we tend to not think about is our creativity. And this obviously differs on different, based on where you're from, but where I'm from in the Caribbean, it's not encouraged, right, to be creative. The system of learning is very rote. If you should do well at school, you should not disagree with your teacher. You should keep it within this mold, right? Anything outside of the box you don't want to step outside of the box because everyone will notice, and that's not a good thing. So creativity is not necessarily encouraged. And this is where I think we can make a difference. So we can experiment with local partnerships. Is there a way that we can get different people, different stakeholders? It could be a school. It could be a particular group of people that don't necessarily get to be part of solutions or don't have the resources to be part of the solutions, that you get together and allow them to give ideas. It could be the same people with the problems. Most of the time we actually know how to solve our problems, but we don't have the resources. So maybe you could allow them to experiment with different ideas and work together and come up with better ways to solving those issues. And then the final one I have here is changing hierarchy. And this has a lot to do with this part as well. Again, because we tend to have this very structured hierarchy, we have those at the bottom who don't speak up, and those who might think their ideas aren't good enough because they don't have the right education, or they just don't feel smart enough, whatever the case might be, but they might have some really, really great ideas. So how can we make the field feel level so that we can encourage the freedom to speak and to share those ideas? So these are some new sort of ways that we can encourage these entrepreneurial models, given our context, to build better enterprises. All right, so we're getting to the part where I stop talking and I let you do the work. So the how. So we have an activity I mentioned, and it's going to be in tables. So if we have smaller tables or larger tables, we have some large ones. So you guys can spread around, make your team slightly smaller. And I'm going to give you a few tools, and you're going to get to pick one of those tools. So just to explain them before we get into it, one of the first tools is the business model canvas. How many people have used this before? Very common canvas. If you have a new business idea, one of the first things that you're going to get told that you need to do is complete a business model canvas. And this basically gets you to think about different areas of your business idea, including anticipated costs, benefits, revenues, and so on, so that you can start to see whether your business is actually viable or not. Now, this has been expanded to a different kind of business model canvas. It's called the triple layered business model canvas. And the triple layered business model canvas includes that economic part that you just saw, but also has an environmental canvas as well. So in this model, just like the economic one, we're thinking about the negative impacts, but also the positive impacts. So what are the environmental impacts? And a lot of what you see here, so I'm using the example of Nespresso, those coffee pods. A lot of these impacts are measured by the greenhouse gas emissions associated with those areas. So for example, in production, the capsule, the production of that capsule, land materials take about 13.3% of the total greenhouse gas emissions of the company. So quite a significant chunk here. The end of life, 5.5% of greenhouse gas emissions come in the end of life. The use phase, this is where the consumer uses those Nespresso pods. Here, look at this, 28% through the cup washing, almost 11% through the coffee prep, and machine use 7.8. So you can see just from this that the majority of their greenhouse gas emissions come in that use phase. Yep. So this here now tells the company, okay, this is something we have to deal with because this is where the majority of our impacts lie. So this is our business model canvas, the environmental section. We also have a societal one. Now the societal one does the same thing as well. It looks at the societal impacts, the negative impacts, and the benefits as well, and breaks it down into different stakeholders almost. So we have local communities, we have the governance structure for this organization, the employees, what value does it give to society? We have to think about how we embed ourselves in the context within the culture that we are part of, and then thinking about our customer at the end of the day, right? So this is our triple layer business model canvas, and one lucky group will get to work on this. All right, our next tool, and I know some of us know this in here, and I'm probably gonna tell whoever's used this before, don't use it, try something new. So our circular economy principles. So circular economy is modeled on nature. If you were to pick any item in nature, any resource, you'll realize that everything in nature goes through a cyclical process. Everything gets reused. In nature, there really is no waste. No such concept. Everything gets reused into something else. Energy cycles through, gets used elsewhere. In our typical production cycles, we have what we call a linear process, right? We take stuff from the earth, we make something with it, and then we throw it away. And usually when we throw it away, it doesn't reintegrate into our land or our air. It just sits there. It remains, like if you think about plastic, that can persist for thousands of years in our oceans or in different capacities, but it doesn't reintegrate. So circular economy principles basically says that we need to think about how can we create our production cycles that are cyclical in nature, that leave no waste. If we were to erase this concept of waste and think of everything that is currently waste as a resource, right? How can we use whatever is waste today as a resource to create a new business, to work with another business? How can we connect different businesses through wastes and resources? So we have this concept of a community or a location of businesses that use the resources that is circulated amongst them. And so every bit of waste that comes from one business goes into the next business. And you have this continuous cycle and virtually no waste at the end of the day. So circular economy principles, also we have 3 governing rules. So we want to think about elimination of waste and pollution. We want to circulate products and materials. So if you think about this, you will be thinking about this. We also want to regenerate nature. So we're not just protecting and using less, we also want to think about how to make it bigger and better. How can we create stronger and more resilient natural resources? That's our second one. Our third model or framework is our stakeholder analysis. So stakeholders, huge part of what we do. Our why started with the people. At the end of the day, sustainability, I like to say, is not about protecting the environment. It's not about protecting the planet. What do you think sustainability is really about? What is it? Sorry? No?
So we can continue using the resources, the future generations can continue using the resources.
So the future generations can continue using the resources, yeah? Okay, so the common word here is people. We care about people. At the end of the day, we care about ourselves. We are a species. Every species cares about the continuation and the sustainability of their species. The truth is that for us to continue, we need to have a planet to live on, right? And so in the protection of ourselves and our species, we have to think about the protection of the resources that we need to survive. So it's all about us. It's about our survival as a species. Really, that's what sustainability is all about. So we want to think about the people that are part of this issue. Yes? Can we?
This was recently portrayed in a movie entitled Save the Humans.
Yes. Yeah, I haven't seen that one, but I've heard about it. And there's some really great movies. Has anyone watched Don't Look Up? I love that movie. It's terrifying, terrifying. If you haven't watched it, you should watch it. It's a dystopian future where basically climate change has accelerated way beyond what we thought it would, and our planet is on the brink of disaster. And sorry, it was about something else. It's alien space or whatever it is. But anyway, the movie is meant to get us thinking about this looming threat. We know it's there. We know it's going to kill us. But at the same time, we just keep ignoring it. And it grows and it grows. And we turn into these extreme individuals who are either for it or against it. And some of us ignore it. Some of us are die-hard activists. And I won't tell you the end if you haven't seen it. But it is a very frustrating movie when you think about it from the point of view of climate change. So if you haven't looked at it, please do. Anyway, so our next model is stakeholder analysis, and what we're doing is we are thinking about stakeholders who are impactful to our business. So these are stakeholders who have power, who have influence over the organization. So if they have low influence, we want to monitor them, right? We want to know they exist and make sure that they're okay. But if they have high influence on our business, then we really want to keep them happy, right? These are the stakeholders who have the power to change your business. And so you want to think about them and keep them satisfied. And then down here on the horizontal axis, we have interest. So these are stakeholders who are interested in what you do because it's something that's important to them or it's something that could influence them in the future. So we want to think about if we have low interests, again, we monitor those. If we have high interests, we want to keep them informed because they could become stakeholders who have this influence, this power. If we have a stakeholder who has both interest and power, we really want to manage them closely. So we want to keep them as close as possible to us. So whichever group works with this framework will think about the stakeholders that they want to really engage and develop an engagement plan with them. And then we have, this one is a common framework. I think everybody will probably look to this one. Our UN SDGs, so I mentioned we have 17 global goals that help us frame how we can actually solve or deal with our not just climate change, but sustainability in general. So you have some really, really, really big goals, like no poverty, right? How do we start to deal with the problem of no poverty? But we can, if we're building enterprises, we're creating jobs, we're bringing in the community, we're engaging with different groups, we are actually actively solving this problem right here. So the goals might seem far-fetched and pretty broad, but we can actually attempt to solve them with our entrepreneurial activities. So these are the 4 frameworks that we're going to use. Let me introduce the case. So this is a fictitious case, Our breakout case activity, so I've invented this company called Eco-Tours Paradise. So we have a tourism person in the room. So here you go. Eco-Tours Paradise is an eco-tourism venture in Costa Rica. The country, as we all know, is known for its biodiversity and its natural beauty. This company aims to be a sustainable enterprise by building awareness of sustainability issues, engaging with the community, but more importantly, allowing tourists to also engage with the natural beauty of the community. So they provide eco-lodging, they provide guided tours, they have educational programs, they have activities, and so on. This is the context. So Costa Rica has high unemployment rates, so this community in particular cares a lot about how much money they can get out of this. At the end of the day, they care about jobs, and they care about economic security before the environment and society. So we have to think about that need, because we want to build our community and develop that space. Whoops. There's, what else is there in here? So they look for environmental leadership, blah, blah, blah. But Costa Rica is also dealing with, as we know, climate change, more frequent and severe storms, rising temperatures, unpredictable rainfall. I put in some metrics here for those of us who like to play with numbers. If you don't, that's fine. But it's just to give you an idea of the scale of this organization. So it is a medium enterprise. And our key challenges are environmental degradation. So climate change is exacerbating this. The more tourists we see, the more this will become a problem, right? The more people there are in an area, the more development happens, the more buildings need to be built, the more roads need to be built. The more infrastructure means less natural resources. The more people we have, the more facilities we need to create, the more we need to bring energy and water and food that leads to this here. So we want to create balance. And so that's one of the challenges that this company faces. We also want to think about bringing in the community. How do we involve the community members in this venture so that it becomes a source of livelihood for them, but also a source of pride, right? They're showing off their community, they're learning more about the environment and so on. The company wants to attain sustainable certification, so they want to be a sustainable operations company. They want to build education and awareness, and they're dealing with climate change impacts. So these are major challenges. So our objectives are reduce the environmental footprint by 30% in 3 years. We want to develop programs that reach at least 1,000 tourists and 500 locals. We want to ensure that 50% of the benefits of tourism end up in the community and that they don't just escape to outside communities or different countries. And we want to achieve a certification at the end of the day in sustainability. All right, so these are the 4 areas. Our sustainability audit team will use our circularity principles. And you're basically looking internally at the organization. What can they do to embed more sustainability principles? So I've only asked for 3 in there. So you want to think about what those activities are, what those practices might be, how they might deliver benefit to the organization, but also what are the costs of those practices. So we're using the 2 frameworks. We could use the circularity or the UN SDGs, but you really want to think about the cost benefit of each of those practices. The second team will look at an eco-friendly design of a product or service. So what new products or service can this venture create that will help it achieve its goals? So if there's a creative group in here who likes to brainstorm around new ideas, can be a really fun, tech, innovative, whatever it is, but we just need to think about, does it help us achieve our goals? The third and fourth team, so the third team here uses that triple layered business model canvas. Right? This one is the most straightforward, so you're just going to complete that canvas as well as possible. And then the final team will think about the community engagement, so use that stakeholder analysis model. So who are we engaging and how do we engage them over time? All right, so we're going to spend maybe 30 minutes. If we need extra time, we can do that. And then each group will spend 5 minutes and present to the wider group. Now, if you look on your table, you'll find that there are no papers besides the one flip chart, and that's because we're a sustainable group. So right here, you can find all the frameworks that you will need, and you can scan. So I have the case brief, I have the case brief here. There's an actual Google folder with everything in it if you just want to go there, but these are the separate frameworks that we're going to use. All right, but before we do anything, we got to get into groups. So we have 2 groups here, which are really small, so I'm encouraging people from other groups to move to these 2 tables. And if you do, you get first pick. Nobody's running. Okay, we have some runners. Good, good. Okay. Right. Okay, the truth is everybody just picks whatever they want. So, there's no race or hierarchy. So one of the first things that you're going to discuss as a team is which model are you going to use. I'm going to bring it back to this. So we have our sustainability audit team that uses the circularity principles. We have the eco-friendly design team, and then we have the triple layered model, and then we also have the community engagement. So in your team, first thing, decide what are you going to focus on, and just write it at the top of your flip chart, so I know who's doing what.
Wait, keep saying.
Sorry. Yes, I will do it. I just want to know what everybody's choosing, and then I'll put the QR codes back up. 4? Okay, so just write down on your flip chart so I know which one you're focusing on.
Are the groups already decided, like 1, 2, 3, 4?
No, you're deciding right now.
Seeing one. Okay.
Yeah.
Super.
I think that.
Yep, so every team choose what are you going to focus on, and then I'll put the QR codes back up so we can scan what we need to. Oh yeah, it's fine. Yeah. Do we know what we're choosing?
Yeah.
The 4, okay. So we have them take us for 4. There's 1 and 2. 2? No, but you can choose whatever you want. It doesn't matter what they choose. No.
They asked me if they have a copy of the presentation.
Oh yes, I'll send. Should I send it later? Who do I send it to?
I can ask.
Okay. Okay. No worries. What are we doing? One?
3 practices.
Oh, this is 3?
Yeah. I mean, 4 also has potential.
Somebody has 4 already, I believe.
Yeah, but you can choose it. It's fine.
Oh, okay.
What are you guys working on?
So we came in a little bit later, so we're trying this.
Okay. So we have 4 activities to choose from. Oops. This is, so we have one, which is a sustainability. Okay, I think most of us have chosen. Okay, so once you've chosen, at the top of your flip chart, please just write the name of your activity that you've chosen. So we've got hair. Yes, I'm gonna show you in 1 second. You guys chose. We're going to street. Okay, let's write down triple layered business model canvas. Okay, perfect. And same here. So whatever you chose, just write it at the top. Yes. Do you know which one you've chosen? Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, and here are the QR codes. So the case brief, if you need to look at that in detail, is right there as well. All right, everyone. That's time. So I'm encouraging you to nominate someone who can report out to the rest of the class. So 1 person or 2 people, if you guys want to co-produce or co-share, that's fine with me. All right, we're taking some photos as well. All right, okay, so can we have attention up front now? We're going to report whatever we have, and it might not be complete, that's fine. The process is usually more interesting and important than the actual outcome. So we're going to work with whatever we have currently. So the team that stops speaking last goes first.
They understand, speak Spanish.
Okay, you guys want to go first. So we have our first team that is going to present on task 3. And we can also use this.
Okay, sí. Okay. Tenemos un nombre de nuestro grupo. ¿Cómo vamos a decir?
Que vayan más para allá. Para acá. Que lo ponemos aquí.
Okay.
Bello.
Gracias.
Chuchín. Okay.
¿Cómo es nuestro equipo?
So we're just tasked with doing for the Eco Lodge, right? We had to do one of the canvases and we did the environmental one. So we started off first working with the functional value, which is responsible hospitality and tourism, and then making sure it's all sustainable. So how do you do environmental conservation, local community impact practices, responsible tourism? From there, we worked off the different segments, all cover supplies, production and materials, and environmental impact, and my partner will cover this whole section of the canvas. So then we start off with supplies and outsourcing. What do we have? We have textiles, we have sheets, we have anything that's towel related. We have food, water, and energy, anything that has to do with mobility. For the materials, we have local food production, anything that's fabrics, that's plastic, that's waste, that's glass, and then wood. So we're really trying to see how we can maximize local elements. For production, we have food, and then anything that's personal care. And then all this kind of falls back into environmental impact. What's the destruction of habitats, contamination, natural resources, high levels of unemployment, low levels of education, and then climate change. And then we're kind of trying to see how all the whole ecosystem works together. And then my partner will read the rest.
So here in functional value, right, the functional value that we're providing are the actual experiences, right, the eco tourism experience, the sustainable experience with the lodging. Now, we're here supporting the community locally by practices of our responsible tourism and conservation. And then here, the environmental benefits are the
lessening of emissions.
Yes, the lessening of the emissions, gas emissions, as well as the community impact, right, by balancing out the climate change as well as the issues with the lack of education and unemployment. Will be providing the employment and providing the educational experiences with our business proposition, right? Those are the opportunities. And then for the use phase, we're describing here the recycling of water as a material, as well as energy, renewable energy, and then lastly, gas, right, in the usage of cooking, because we'll be using our local produce, our local farms, in order to create local meals in our lodges. Anything else?
All right.
Yeah. Thanks.
Questions? I have questions, but I want to see what you guys have. Questions first. Questions for the team. Are you developing a new strategy? No. So they're just mapping out what exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The breakdown of the eco tourism, specifically lodging. So we focus just on lodging for this time. Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right. So I'm going to ask, what is the biggest area of impact that you perceive this company will have on the environment and society?
I would say the opportunities, the educational opportunities, as well as the employment opportunities within the community.
Okay.
Empowerment and strengthening the community.
Okay. What about the negative impacts?
I would say would be the waste, the garbage or the waste from the tourists would be the impact.
Okay.
You handle like textile and wood as well for like construction or repairs or daily usage of materials in general.
Yep. So that is important, because the moment we can identify that big area of impact, this company can now say, well, we really need to think about the materials we're using. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned that you're using glass and aluminum metals and so on. So how can we then minimize the ability to create waste? So how can we use things that are reusable and come up with strategies that mitigate that massive impact? So this is what this does, right? It gets us to think about where are the areas we really, really need to focus on and zoom in so that we can deal with the environmental impacts. So thank you very much, team. All right, who wants to go second? Should we have the other business model canvas team? No. No. All right, okay, who wants to go next? No one wants to volunteer? I will call on you. There's a lot of academics in here. You know we call on people, so if you don't volunteer, all right. All right, we got our team back here, and this team is working on stakeholder engagement, right? It's 4? What's your number? 1? Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. So, Hi, everyone. Okay, so we're a little bit late with all of this, but we decided to look at a sustainability project, similar to the first group, but from a different angle. I think that by the time we're finished, I think you'd see where we've captured some of the areas that, you know. All right, so one of the first things we're looking at, we're using the circulatory principle. That covers obviously the impact on the environment and how we can also benefit business and all that stuff, right? We thought about this recycling aspect of things, teaching social responsibility, obviously, and the environment impact. We're talking about young people first in schools who are getting that education of what they need to do and finding ways, maybe through huddles and stuff, to create a business out of it by incentivizing them in that way. But we wanted to go a little bit further because obviously we want to monetize it to create some form of incentive, yes, so people keep doing it. But because we already have lots of waste that we create generally anyways, daily. We're talking about fruit and vegetable collection for composting. And we've also seen, even here at the conference, we've seen some of the local artisans who are using waste, like coffee making, or the beans making bags and shoes and everything that they could do with waste material. Banana stalks and plants that they can use to make wigs, to use to make bags, all sorts of things, napkins, all the things that are there that we're looking at some of the plates that we saw being used for the meals. So we're finding other byproducts that can be created from the waste itself, right, that we can, engineer. One of our collaborators at the table spoke about where she's from in Suriname and how they've been collecting or recycling oil, and it's been shipped off to Guyana. And that oil has been used for biofuel. So lots of companies are now tapping into that. So they make makeup and soaps and everything from the recycled vegetable oil that we have daily, right? One of the ways that we'll be capturing a lot of our resources essentially would be from beach cleanups. So there's no real major cost, save for us looking at storage of waste and the processing, of course. So when we thought about some of the products that we could get, we obviously need to think about our collaborators, maybe airlines, or those who are running airports or need biofuel essentially for whatever they're doing with their energy use. We were looking at additional persons that we need to contact. I'm going to get to that, the advertising agencies and everything when I look at the stakeholders. One of the things that we explored were how could we have individuals being able to give up their time and enough energy to research what they're doing and to get some of the work underway, and we're thinking of using the universities. So schools, they have programs specifically looking at biodiversity and looking at the environmental impact. We also thought that the community in general, because they're going to be the ones obviously contributing to the waste and of course helping us in managing that.
But also it helps them in the long term.
And it helps us in the long term, right? We are saying it's a natural resource, obviously, that everyone benefits from, and so everyone has that, the community level has that interest involved in that. We explored another stakeholder would be government, because in order for us to get some of what we want to get done, we need a policy level approach as to how it's done. So when we looked at even tourists coming in, if we have a policy level coming through from the tourist board, or I don't know if you guys call it the same thing, but in Jamaica it's called a tourist board. It's an arm of government that deals specifically how we manage tourists coming in and what they do and all of that, the regulatory aspect of things. If we can have from the moment they enter the airport, you are seeing signage, you're seeing what people do. Whenever you're traveling to a country, ordinarily people look at what are the rules? What are some of the things that you want to be doing when you're in the country so that you don't offend anyone? And so you explore the quality of your enjoyment in the country. If we have that on a policy level as to how we deal with waste and management and keeping our space clean, and that helps us in many ways. And that goes back to how we would need to also partner with advertising agencies for that pro bono assistance and signage around the country, and in helping manage that. So, like we mentioned, one of our major cost issue would have been obviously the storage and processing of the facilities. If we're just starting out, we wouldn't necessarily have a space to house. And we're not trying to collect all the waste, like, in one space like that, but also the processing of it. How do we turn it from the actual waste into raw materials, into what we're trying to do to make money as well, to keep the system growing? If we provide that education as well, from the young people, like I said, we're creating a culture of it. We're going to keep our workforce, for one. We're keeping people interested. We're keeping people who want to see the benefit of the country prospering that way. And we also need to examine data for waste management and processing for the country. So the quantity, how many persons, we're looking at the population size and the amount of waste that is coming from that population. And so that we're not necessarily doing more than we need to be doing, and we have a better view, essentially, of what obtains and what kind of intervention is needed. So we put some stages there. We were all over the place. So stage one of our process, obviously, would be that examination of the data. What already exists? What do we have in place? What do we need to get done? What sort of intervention will actually be required from the data, right? And that will be about 3 months of doing that. Stage two, it's where we're now trying to get our stakeholders involved. We're talking about the universities, talking about the programs that they're going to be doing, talking about government entities who would be, obviously we all have an interest to serve in that way, but the government entities, all of that we've scaled about 6 to 12 months, a year essentially, of trying to get all of that collaboration done and mapping out exactly what needs to be done based on the data. And stage three, we've put to 1.5 to 2 years. Obviously now, and it will be an ongoing thing obviously, but at least it starts to roll out. It will be a 2-year span of trying to get all of our waste together and finding ways in how we're going to be processing the waste. All right, so that's us. Thank you.
Pretty thorough. Questions for the team?
Oh, I forgot that part.
No questions. Well, that was pretty comprehensive. that was a great presentation. So one of the things, so you obviously tackled waste a lot, and that's a big issue, especially if we're talking about bringing people in. The people, we create a lot of waste. We do a lot of waste. And when you think about food, the preparation of that food, we think about the packaging associated with that food, and then all the other resources that we use. One of the biggest issues, though, that we see with food waste collection is the collection part. And that's been a major struggle in almost everywhere that I've seen this attempt. It's that contaminated food can lead to issues. You can't use it as compost. So it's really the awareness and education is so important, which you mentioned, right? Bringing that up front. If we teach people how to do this properly, then it means that the end product will be better and more usable. But I really like that you brought these different ideas of, how can we utilize the waste as a resource. But one thing I would suggest is perhaps as a small company, you don't want to expand yourself so much. But what you could be doing is creating this ecosystem of businesses in that small community. Right? You have, I think it's something like 2,500 tourists per year. So you do have a sizable amount of waste. Perhaps this waste then goes to a local hat maker or bag maker or someone who does recycle that oil and create something out of it. So you're not necessarily taking the onus on yourself as a small company to do all these things, but you are creating that ecosystem, right, of companies that can utilize those resources. So I think that this was a really great presentation, and you sort of brought that out. And I love that you did the different scales as well, so not just the community level, but to the policy level. How can we get people, the moment they land in the country, to know this is what we're about? So I think that was a great presentation. Okay, number 3. Number 3, who's going? Come on, we're all friends here. right. Our table one is going, nope, okay. We've got our next business model canvas team going up.
¿La van a aguantar ustedes?
Yes.
Perfecto.
We are the handlers. She's the speaker. We are the models.
Okay, well, we did the social canvas, and yeah, we only did one. So we have the local communities, the residents. They are our communities, right? The communities that we're working with. So they're the main part of our canvas. Then governance. We have the local assembly, accountability, decision making, the community for decision making, transparency, and also we add the co-creation within the community. Employees, the local members of the community, they are the employees here in this canvas. Also, we have I should start with the social value. Sorry, social value. So we are creating socio-economic change. Higher quality of life, and local economic development and growth for the community. The societal culture, we have environmental cultural values, local empowerment, culture and traditions, and a collaborative environment within the community. Also, we have the scale of outreach. We have job creation, new businesses, businesses in the community, and also local suppliers that we're creating in the communities for the Ecolodge. ¿Es el nombre?
Ecotours.
Ecotours. Pieces that, yes. And our end user is mainly the community. So we have community businesses, jobs, income. We have now income source, and we have also investment in the infrastructure, and we have community, the benefits of the community at large.
The community are going to be involved
in the process, yes. And for social impact, we have a few. We have the culture preservation, because we have to invest in culture preservation, so that's an impact. We also have more working hours for the employees, for also the new businesses that we are creating in the community, which will potentially have burnout, because now they have to work more, because there's incoming tourists. We also have more risk, because there's more people coming in the community. Pollution, definitely. And we also have community disruption, because we're going to, the life at the community is going to be disrupted by all these incoming tourists that we are receiving. From the social benefits, we have more employment, more businesses, local businesses. We also have, we are creating a collaborative environment within the community, and also community empowerment. And this will be our canvas. Questions?
Questions for the social canvas team.
It was amazing. I love it.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you.
One of the things we want to do is to integrate the community with the companies, so we work together as one, and that will increase the awareness of the importance of the different companies within the community.
Perfect.
You have a question.
Yes.
Or a comment.
Many questions, I know.
So, from the top part, there was a lot of conversation about, and it seems like you focused a lot on the community, as you rightly said, that you're trying to engage the community. Of course, we can think about it from the customer point of view as well, the employee point of view. So you've deliberately looked at the community, which is great. But at the beginning, all I heard was really, really great stuff. So I was really happy to hear towards the end there in the social impact, you brought in that disruptor. So yes. I'm from a small island where tourism is a big deal. And we were just having this discussion at this table here of this incident in Spain where the community members were throwing stuff at the tourists. Yeah.
Oh, in Barcelona, yeah.
Yeah, because tourists are disruptors.
Yes.
They are disruptors. And after a while, your way of life slows down because you can't do anything. The city becomes busy, everything becomes more expensive. Right? So these are some of the impacts we really, really have to consider. So it's not just about, yes, more tourists is better. It's about how can we think about what these impacts will have on our communities.
And the quality of life.
Equality of life, but also how can we mitigate those? So is it that we have to limit the number of tourists? How do we deal with the issue of not growing too much where it creates that disruption?
Yeah. So we probably were thinking, now that I see it, there's more risk, more costs maybe here in the impact than from the benefit side. So we probably will have to work more detail from both sides so we can have the larger
Some places limit the amount of tourists. Yep. I don't know if there's someone here from Peru. In Machu Picchu, they limit the amount of tourists per day, so it can the impact to the ruins and
environment. Yeah, we have some places here in Puerto Rico that are also doing some eco tours, and they're watching they're limiting the numbers per week of the tourists.
Yeah,
and the caves and the
and there's natural ways of doing that, right? You limit the infrastructure. So if you can only house 500 people, then that's a natural limit. And then other ways we limit is through price. But then you're leaving out a whole host of people who might be interested but can't afford. So that gets at another social issue. So yes, there's a lot to think about. I'm happy you guys brought that piece out, and as you can realize, there's more to it. But when you start to add in the other stakeholders, then you see that there's even more benefits and even more impact. So it's really thinking ahead. That's all this exercise is about.
We thought about who more end users, the tourists, the local tourists. We have external tourists, and also we also thought about employees. Yeah, but we didn't have enough time.
Yeah.
Or space.
And what you did is great. I'm not critiquing that in any way. I think to do this, the best way to do this is actually to zoom in on each at a time. The moment you start to generalize, it gets a little bit harder. So focusing just on a particular stakeholder makes a lot of sense. So great job. Thank you, team. All right, we have 2 teams left. Oh, there's a race for it. Okay. Okay, I was hoping this team went next because I'm talking about stakeholders, and this is the stakeholder team. I know you got stakeholder too. Okay, you're both.
First of all, we had a lot of discussion on our table for the approach. We zoomed down to a few stakeholders in the community. Naturally, the community itself is the stakeholders, but then we say the employees, the tourist, the company itself, the government, also the suppliers, and the environmentalist. Yes, that's the correct word. Maybe we will do it like this. She will go into the details, and when I can assist her. Okay.
Hi, afternoon, everyone. So we thought we used the stakeholder analysis method to respond to the problem. First, we went about identifying our stakeholders, or major stakeholders, in the scenario. So we started, as my colleague said, with the community, the people, the employees, the tourists, and these are external tourists, foreign tourists, owners of the eco-tours, the company, the government, environmentalists, and suppliers. And then we narrowed it down to two of our stakeholders. And we, as I said, we use the stakeholder analysis method or tool So just to remind us, so we're analyzing based on power and interest, and we bear in mind that we're using a kind of, instead, so we didn't get boxed in literally. We pretended it was a graph. Imagine it was a graph to determine where each stakeholder would fall. And as you can see, pretty much everybody fell within the two on this side. So I'll start with the two that we decided to look at are government and the community or the people. For us, we determined that how the government could contribute to addressing the problem is by designing working with the government to design a promotional plan to attract tourists to the area. And that promotional plan would include, obviously, the positives about the attraction, but also the things to look out for as well that would ensure that it doesn't cause issues when the tourists do come and that they're aware of what is expected. We also determined that we wanted to advocate through the government for proper infrastructure, so that way whatever was depleted before that would have caused a challenge in the first place, that would be addressed, and identify other infrastructure as well that would both uplift the community but also encourage tourists to come, and that they would, while they're there, that they would be able to move about easily and comfortably, and obviously leave with a good impression of the overall look and feel of the place. Then we looked at negotiating an incentive for locals so that the business would remain viable. We wanted to ensure that the right people and as many persons as possible from within the community or within the space are able to benefit from the ecotourism. And so if working through the government, we can organize or look at incentives that more people will want to, will be interested in ecotourism and want to set up businesses that support that industry. And then finally, education campaigns, working through local institutions, the schools, the churches, other institutions that exist within the community, working through those institutions to promote ecotourism, to promote the activities, and to promote the positive benefits that are derived from ecotourism, and certainly starting with working through different populations who are themselves are stakeholders in their own right, from the very young to in schools to adults in the churches and other places. Then our second stakeholder that we chose to focus on is the community or the people, and this is the general community. The first thing we wanted to do was because there is a challenge now, we wanted to sensitize the community on how they can participate in ecotourism, how it impacts them, and how they can help to address some of the challenges and make a difference and benefit from ecotourism, and to get from them as well what roles they think they can play in ensuring that it is mutually beneficial for them and for the tourists that visit. Then we looked at engaging influential leaders in the community so that they can help to support the buy-in of the general community in the ecotourism business. Then we identified the strategy of applying best practices from similar places. So similar to this conference, engaging with other people from other spaces who are also doing ecotourism and who are doing very well, and getting their input and some of the things that work for them. And of course, looking at what is culturally relevant to our community, and ensuring that we try and implement those. We also thought, finally, that we would want to encourage linkage business opportunities. So we were providing one kind of business, and so we wanted to explore what other businesses could benefit the overall ecotourism space, and how what we currently have, both what's working and what's presenting challenges, how that could be transformed into business opportunities. So that is it.
Questions?
All right.
First question of the day. No.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much.
Wait.
Sorry.
So, the great job, and I know it looks skewed, right? That everything is in that high interest category, and the great job selecting those two and sort of going into detail on them. And I like that you sort of really thought about where they are and the strategy alignment. So the great thing about a stakeholder analysis or stakeholder mapping is that when you are able to figure out where the stakeholder lies on this matrix, you can design your strategy to best fit them. So if you notice, the community is in that low power, high interest. So they're in that keep informed category. So your strategy will always be about how can I push out information to the community, not necessarily continuously engage them through activities, but we want to be able to make them aware of what we're doing. So there's a lot of that awareness building in that strategy. Whereas the manage closely, so the government being that high impact or high influence, high power, high interest, high power, they are the ones we want to engage closely, right? So we want to work with them to ensure that we meet our similar outcomes. So obviously the government has the intention to build economic development and growth, and we're doing the same, so we meet on those common goals. So, very nice that you've aligned those strategies to those different matrix elements. So I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit on your struggles with placing those stakeholders, because I think at the end of the day, that's probably the most difficult part. How do we box people? And how did you go about it?
Right, so it was a very intense process. We spent quite a bit of time trying to determine how and where to place each stakeholder. And I think this is consistent with an analysis that is done the right way, because we'll have different views coming from different backgrounds and having different experiences. So I think what it came down to is really just operationalizing each box to have just a very specific definition for what each box and each area represents, and then carefully determining how, based on the scenario that was presented, how much, for example, as you said, the community is a major stakeholder and they can make a significant difference in the success or the failure of the venture. However, how much power do they really have to make or break the business? And so we had to just ask those very, very pertinent questions and answer them among ourselves in order to come to a consensus. So it's not a very easy process. It's easy to identify the stakeholders, to say who are the important people in this process, but to then categorize them or to put them in each of the different areas is difficult. So I think one of the best guidance we got was not to box them, but to instead look at how they fall along the continuum. Yeah.
Great. And then they got into some deep questions of what is power, right? So a very philosophical table here. And one of the things that I think helped is the context, right? So whatever location you're in will help define those very well. So if you go on to use the stakeholder mapping and stakeholder analysis, be sure to think about the context and know that different stakeholders can fall into different sections depending on where you are. But thank you very much, team.
Sure. Thank you.
All right, let's go to our next stakeholder team.
Entonces, ¿quién va a estar hablando?
Las dos ahí, según.
So, hi everyone. So we have a community engagement also, a stakeholder analysis, and we put in, the stakeholders list is financial investors, tourists, the government, suppliers, natural environment, tourists, and the community. So we put in keep satisfied the financial investors, and one of the things that we're gonna make to engagement is to make sure they have a competitive return on investment and make sure the activities that we done or that we'll be doing are economic viable in a long term, because sustainability look for a long term environmental safely. For the tourists, we're gonna follow the principles of ecotourism and make sure they know, the tourists know, maybe in our webpage we're gonna put it or something, or when they do the contact with us, we can send them the information that we are on track to be certified with by the International Ecotourism Society, or that we are with an organization with ecotourism ideas and give us guidelines, etc., etc. With the government, just to follow the guidelines, the laws, and the permits that they ask for. Maybe because that information wasn't in the description of the case, but if the government has a certification for sustainability, so of course we're gonna be part of that. In Manage Closely, we put suppliers, so it's very important we choose suppliers that promote environmental friendly practices. Maybe, of course, it had to be local. Friendly practice with sustainability, and in the natural environment is very important. We only encourage eco-friendly activities. So the environment where we have the lodging, or where we have the tour guides doing the tours, everything is going to be safe for the environment that is around us. For the tourists, we put it also in Manage Closely, because we had to make sure that they commit to follow our guidelines and our rules to
preserve nature.
To preserve nature. Thank you. And keep informed with the community, okay? So here, my friendly, you say the one, you say that one, so explaining yourself.
Which one would you say?
The last one? You
Oh, community.
Yeah.
Keep informed. Yeah, well, community, I do believe communities do have power, but we agreed on interest and low power. But we said to engage with them and keep them informed, we would hold town meetings. We wanted to be as eco-friendly as possible, and then just do these like once a month or maybe every semester, and just keep them informed of what we're doing, our policies and our guidelines and everything we're doing with the tourists and all that activity. We also thought about educating them. So we would hold workshops and trainings and short-term courses so that they can be educated and they can work possibly not only for the eco-tourist company, but maybe something else related to that field, whichever they choose. So yeah, that's about it.
Questions? No questions. All right. Okay. Well, again, thank you for putting these in the matrix and then aligning your strategy to whatever place they are in that matrix. And it's interesting that you chose government to be in a different category from this group, right? And so this is where you can find those differences in perceptions and thinking and so on. And you can have the right reason, right, for putting them in that space. One of the things I think I'm going to call out on this one is the stakeholder of the environment. And we don't tend to think of the natural environment as a stakeholder. But one of the big debates that's going on right now is, if we considered the environment to be a stakeholder, then perhaps we would treat it as one, right? Perhaps we would think about the impacts that we have the same way we're thinking about the impacts on our employees and our customers, that we would also think about that if we considered them, the environment as a stakeholder. So thank you for putting that in there. And I wanted to, and I asked this team the same question, but I want to ask you as well, because this is the real difficulty of this activity, is situating these stakeholders. And did you have any struggles? Is there something on there that you would personally change? How did the discussion go in terms of where to place those stakeholders?
It was very difficult. We had a struggle, yeah. Coming up with the stakeholders per se, and then choosing where to place them, and if they had more power or more interest, or we struggled with government. That's why it has a star. And the tourists are in 2 places. But and then the community, how much power do they hold? So it was a struggle. Yeah.
Yeah, and as this team did, and I think I advised them to look at it as a hierarchy and a continuum rather than a box, right? So we don't necessarily fit in boxes, but we might be able to put stakeholders in terms of the amount of power that they have. Government has more power than the community, so we could think about it in that way rather than just box them. So think more graphically as opposed to matrixy. All right. Okay. Thank you so much, team. Did we have a 6th team? Am I making it up? Did we have a table here? No, we were good. Okay. All right. Well, that was great. Thank you guys for engaging with that activity. And you all did really, really wonderfully. I did have the last few minutes of discussion, and I thought if this was going to be a big group, we're going to break down into smaller groups and have discussion and then report out widely. But because of time, we don't need to do that. And of course, I was thinking in this room we'd have a lot more entrepreneurs, but we're very mixed. So I'm going to open it up for your own questions based on your industry, your background, your academic profile, interests, and so on. It could be those questions up there, it could be something else, but primarily I'm looking at what are some of the difficulties that you see when it comes to integrating sustainability, either into a business, into a program, or just conceptualizing the idea and selling it to others. What are some of the challenges? And this is an open discussion. We have a question on the table over here.
A challenge that I sometimes see is that when we try to talk about sustainability with businesses and community stakeholders, some people perceive that as challenging their way of life. And so there's immediately a barrier that goes up with some groups.
Yeah, and this varies, right? So the barriers are different based on where you are. I live in Arizona. I put a full stop right there. I teach at a business school, and this is an international business school, right? So I have in my classroom probably 75% are foreign students, right? Coming from all over the world. And my class is required. So there's a lot of people who don't want to be there. Right? So, my first class, I always say, okay, why are you interested in sustainability? Or are you even interested in sustainability? And a lot of them will say, I don't care about this. I think this is all a ruse. I think this is all made up. I think businesses shouldn't care about this stuff. Right? This, I encourage them to be honest and so we have these conversations about why where are they coming from and why do they believe what they believe? And some will go into the stories of, well, my father has a small business, and if we were to integrate these other products and more sustainable products, it means more expenses. That doesn't make any sense. At the end of the day, we need to make more profits. Others might be from areas where they've had an economic downturn. And so it's all about, at the end of the day, what your situation is. And so we say in sustainability that this is a value problem. Sustainability is a value problem. At the end of the day, everything ties to our own attitudes, our own beliefs, and our own behaviors. So when we try to convince people, we should not be trying to persuade them. We should be trying to engage them. So where is this person's point of view from, right? How can I meet them where they are to recognize that they are coming for a point of concern? Maybe it's economic. Maybe it's just a societal, cultural thing, that this is not something they care about. Maybe they see this sustainability as a luxury thing for people who have money. I've been told that as well, right? Sustainability is a luxury thing. So there are different perceptions of the problems, and always we need to go back to how does it connect to this person. So one of the first things I do is we connect the problem of sustainability, global sustainability, to ourselves. One is, what is our impact? So I have them do an eco-footprint analysis and some other surveys. And then they start to realize, oh, wait, I'm actually a huge part of the problem. Then we start to think about, how does sustainability actually impact you? Where are you from? How have you experienced climate change? How have you experienced societal unrest, disruptions, and so on? And the moment you start to do that, then you realize, hey, actually, I do kind of care about sustainability. I just had never thought about it in that sense, because it seems like a problem that was disconnected from me. But the moment we take away the word, sometimes I don't even use the word sustainability. In some situations, you don't even use the word. You go about it as, this is a problem. It could be economic, it could be environmental, it could be societal. Whatever the case is, you're framing it as a problem that impacts a certain group of people. And that's how we tend to engage, right? So engage those values. So the marketing people in here, and for any of you who have abuelas and relatives who think this is all a ruse, my own family sometimes, my own family, but again, it's education at the end of the day, and making people aware of what the issues are and why they should care.
How's your family in Jamaica after the hurricane?
So I'm from St. Lucia. I'm from St. Lucia. Thank you for asking. So St. Lucia was one of the countries that the hurricane did pass through. And luckily for us, but not for St. Vincent, who's a country that's south of us, the hurricane slightly deviated. So it was moving this way and sort of went south slightly. And we got much less of the impacts that St. Vincent and Grenada had. So everyone in my family as well. Thank you for asking. Yes.
Good. As you said, somewhat the winds, it diverted a bit. So where we thought we would have had the major impacts, we didn't, in Kingston and so on, St. Thomas, but the southern parishes were badly affected. So they're still recovering. A lot of places are still without electricity, water, and so on, and people have lost their houses, people are displaced, the shelters are down, so yeah, we're still recovering.
We in Maria, 2017, some of us were a year without electricity.
Oh
no.
I for sure, I've heard a lot of it that I've been through in my lifetime. Luckily enough, I've lived in St. Lucia for 20 years, and in my lifetime I've seen 0 hurricanes. I'm one of the lucky ones. The big ones came before I was born, and we've had tropical storms, so I've never actually been in a hurricane, which we say God is a St. Lucian. So, thank you. It is a beautiful country. So I'll make a pitch for St. Lucia for all of you who haven't been. It is a great trip. Thank you. Any other questions? Challenges? Have you tried to talk to people about sustainability? Have you tried to integrate sustainability? Have you met with difficulties? We have one. Bye.
I think I've had a situation where we were trying to implement some of the SDGs, specifically Goal 8, trying to incorporate decent work. And when you go to the smaller organizations, like you say, they feel like it's for the bigger organizations. And one of the main reasons why they thought so was when they go into like the mining sectors and all these, in Ghana, let me say, and all these foreign companies are in Ghana and they're mining and there's spillages and the people in the villages and these areas are suffering. And governments, it's not like there's no policy, there are policies in place, but government doesn't touch them. And then you come to the smaller ones and you're trying to implement decent work. And they're like, you shouldn't come to us. Yeah. You should go to the bigger corporations. And even when you go to work with the bigger corporations, they think it's all about paying them. And okay, there was a spillage and we relocated them and we built 800 homes for them, but that's not their home. That's not a solution. And so it makes me wonder whether it's all a facade, or would it ever work? I mean, you're trying to,
no, absolutely. I will tell you, there are many days I wake up and I'm like, God, why do I do this? This is so frustrating. You do 5 steps forward and then somebody comes and 10 steps backwards. And absolutely, there's the argument of not just small versus large, but when you start to think about developing versus developed countries, that's the big debate happening right now. It's that the developing countries are the ones who emit the least emissions, but suffer the most. And then it means that they have to spend a lot of money. So Jamaica will have to dish out some money. Puerto Rico is still dealing with, that deficit of almost $100 billion. And every year, we're going to have to continue to deal with those issues. And at the same time, you have the developed world who continues as is, continues to produce and continues to see less and less of the impacts. So there's a huge debate at the global level. The UN Climate Committee that meets every year, this was the biggest conversation. And the suggestions were that, well, the developed world should pay for some of those reparations and those repairs and all of the money that needs to be spent on building back. And the developed world says, how is that going to work? And at the end of the day, I think the solution that they've come up with is, well, what we'll do is we'll start to invest, this is the developed world, invest in research, invest in technologies that can help the problem. And then we'll share those with you in the developing world so that you can take steps to mitigate those impacts, right? So this is the solution that it's come to. There was also an ask for money on the table, and some has been paid and a lot of it hasn't been paid. So that is one of the big arguments that we see. In terms of the company size, absolutely, big businesses for sure have a lot to do with it and they get away with a lot more at the end of the day, and it depends a lot on policy. So this is where you guys did these analyses. You realize that these stakeholders, you have to deal with all of them. You can't just deal with the community partners without thinking about governments, because what government does will impact that group. What that group does will impact. So they're all interrelated. So we really need to think about at the policy level down to the community engagement level. And together, all of our frameworks and our analysis brings that in a more comprehensive view of the problem. So I don't have the answer. At the end of the day, we need government to step up, unfortunately, to change policies, to make things a little more difficult to do the wrong thing. We need to do that. We need to make it simpler, make it cheaper to do the right thing than it is to do the wrong thing. Unfortunately, right now it's in reverse. It's just easier and cheaper to do the wrong thing. And this is what drives us, and this is where we are as a result of that. So it's a huge debate. I do not have the answer. If I had, I would have made a lot of money by now. I still search for the answer, but I welcome any thoughts that you might have on this question.
Do you think the SDGs will be reached as the SDGs, they have as 2030, they're going to evaluate everything. I don't see that because we are now in 2024. I mean, 6 years ago, I don't see them accomplishing it. Probably they will change the name again and start doing other things again. That's one of my comments. And the other thing is, I think besides government, the multinationals, I think you have to get on your side, because multinationals, I think they are bigger than, and they have more power than government, I think. So if they don't get their act together or say, I want to go that way, I don't think the government policy will work.
Will change, yes. Yeah, and it's all elements of society, right? How do we get the businesses to change? Well, we as customers have to push on them. Government should also put pressure. So we're thinking about different sides of the story, and they all interact. So thinking about the influence and who can influence and targeting those. As far as the SDGs, we are not on track to meet in those. Every year we do measure how far we've come with achieving those SDGs, and we are way below what we should be to get to 2030. So the answer is no. We're not going to get there, but that doesn't mean that what we've done doesn't matter, right? So we have made some progress on some goals. There are some areas that aren't measured very well, and so it's not indicated on there. But we are making some progress. We're not quite where we should be. We're accelerating the wrong way really, really fast. And the good that we're doing, it's too little to make up for that bad. The one thing that they are going to do with the SDGs in 2030 is maybe the name will change, who knows, but the indicators themselves will change. So we've recognized that there are some things that are missing in those 17 goals, and so some things will change. So there's a lot of engagement with the wider scholarly community on what those should be. All right. So we are at time. I do have some certificates that I want to pass out before you leave, but I will take this opportunity to say thank you for spending your afternoon of the last day of the last session with me. It was great to connect with you. I hope you guys got something. All of the documents that you scanned are available to you. And what I'll do is I'll upload the slides as well in that Google folder. So once you're in there, you should have access to it as well. Please connect with me on LinkedIn so we can have further conversations. And I'd love to hear about your stories. Thank you. Thank you. All right, how do they do this? Do they call out names? Is it like a ceremony? Should we put on graduation theme? All right, we'll do it. All right, first we have Danketa Wilson right here. Yes. And then we have Mary Lynn Rivera. Mary, ¿dónde está? Aquí. Okay, perfect, yeah. All right, we have Moises Laguna Nieves. Reina de Lucha, de Luca. Oluwas, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your first. Olua, Walter Keshirino. Alba Brugueras Fabre. Iliana Ballesta Pagnelli. Nelly Colon Ortiz. Morayama de Hoyos Ruperto. Moraima. Chill out, okay. Laurie Piper. This is Laurie at the back. Yeah. Karen Sue. No. Lydia Rosali. Okay. Pamela Bonilla. No. Carmen Bonilla. No. Odette Pinheiro Caballero. There's a lot of names on here. Vivian Feliberti Lugo. No. Doreen Ansa. Oh. Elginia. You stuck me. I got stuck. Leander Zeldenverst. Enrique Munoz Gil. Nurvani Salon. No. Jennifer Herrera. Frances Santiago. David Zayas Montalvo. Joana Salgado. Monica Novoa. Cecile Riviera Lorenz. Anu Bardway. No. Maria Ramos. No. Anita Chin. And Nicolette Wright Black. And I think we need one for the one in the pram. Sorry. I'm just kidding. Did we miss anyone? Did we miss anyone? Did everyone get one certificate? Perfect. All right, well, thank you all so much. I hope to see you all around soon.